Hi, my name is Shruti Khanal and my student ID is 201734779. This presentation is all about the topic under Assignment 3. Talking about the Section 1, the cash flow prepared for SYTVIC Limited has been prepared according to both direct method and indirect method of cash flow. The format of the cash flow statements has been developed on the basis of the ACC501 standard, which is specially developed for preparing of statement of cash flows. The direct method of cash flow consists of three major elements, namely operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities. Operating cash flow section of the cash flow statement specifies the cash inflows and outflows which occurs in a business during the course of conducting the business activities. This section outlines the inflow and outflow amounts which are generated via conducting the regular business activities, which is selling of goods and services. The operating cash flow inflow of SYTVIC comes from cash receipts of $688,650 received from customers and operating cash outflow incurred due to making payment of $461,520 to the suppliers, making interest expense of $8,700, income tax expense of $7,500, and paying for the operating expenses at $2,12055. SYTVIC is making a negative cash flow from its operational activities. In Section 2, it's an introduction about the intangible assets. Intangible assets refers to non-physical substances that do not have any relation with money as well. International Accounting Standards (IAS) and International Financial Reporting Standards (IFRS) were developed by the International Accounting Standards Committee (IASC) and International Accounting Standards Board (IASB) respectively. These standards are followed by many companies across the globe. These are the standards to which every company sticks to maintain its financial statements. As per the measurement of IAS 38, intangible assets are supposed to be measured via a certain cost or revaluation model. The IFRS 38 and IAS 38 standards are almost similar in terms of business conduct, and the Australian Accounting Board of Standards is also adopting the standards of IFRS and applying them to some jurisdictions of Australia. However, Australian organizations are indeed getting into trouble and facing difficulty in the recognition of the various intangible assets. Talking about the complexity of recognizing intangible assets, the intangible assets do not have any physical appearance or identification. Problems of misconceptions regarding the several intangible assets for the financial standards are common all across the world, including Australia. Intangible assets have a lot of variety. Firstly, it is classified into several types, which includes goodwill assets, brand equity assets, licensing assets, assets of customer list, assets based on intellectual properties, and the assets of research and development. All these kinds of assets are important behind a certain company's success, but they are extremely challenging to recognize and evaluate their value to the company without professional guidance. Undoubtedly, there are scopes in the future for economic benefits due to the intangible assets, but at present they are very complicated because of certain characteristics which will be presented in the following slides. They are the absence of physical appearance. The tangible assets are indeed easier to recognize and work on as they have a physical presence, unlike the intangible assets. Challenges in measurement. The intangible assets are also challenging to declare any accurate measurements. Mainly depends on assumptions. Assumptions are mainly used to measure the value of a certain intangible assets, which creates inaccurate measurements based on a particular organization's current scenario. Scarcity of enough guidance. The lack of enough guidance or limited information is one of the main reasons behind the complexity of recognizing intangible assets by the organization. Lack of clarity. Most of the companies do not have exact clarity on the matter of intangible assets. They are not easily accessible for thorough exploration to get more detailed information as per the need of a certain company's financial state. Talking about the calculation of intangible assets, it is the almost necessary aspect to evaluate the accurate value of intangible assets. The main calculation of this process is conducted by subtracting a company's book value from its market value. This is one of the methods that is used to calculate intangible assets. On the other hand, some other factors are preferred to determine the value of intangible assets. Those factors are the firm's return on tangible assets, the entire industry's return on tangible assets, and the ratio of these two. Along with these, the organization's pre-tax earning is also included in the process of calculation. Interviews and surveys. Interviews and surveys include questionnaires are also a requirement to pass a judgment and evaluate a certain intangible assets value in the business. Suppose a survey of interviews is being done on famous companies like Google or Microsoft. Revaluation model. The revaluation model is an accounting approach that is stated as one of the measuring practice of intangible assets by IAS 38. With the guidance of a revaluation model, a said asset is recorded as cost, but that certain value can change by increasing or decreasing depending on the current market value. Observation. Thorough observation or monitoring is a process to evaluate the intangible assets as well. A thorough observation by a professional or senior executive can reach an almost accurate decision and carry on a business process in a more smooth manner that also takes a hand on the revenue of the firm or the entire industry. Previous records. Previous records of information or data are certainly a pathfinder in mitigating the barriers regarding complexities of the recognition of intangible assets. If knowledgeable executive analyzes the previous record regarding intangible assets, it will be thorough guidance to minimize the complexities in the recognition of intangible assets. Talking about the real-life example, several private retail companies in Australia failed due to certain reasons. Besides lack of funding, the properly functioning business strategies, failure to recognize intangible assets is also one of the major reasons behind those brands' failure. In the airline industry of Australia, Qantas Airline is one of the oldest airline companies which emerged in the year 1992. During the pandemic year, the company has been fined a large amount of charge and also illegally cut down an employee. Besides, it contained a short-term view and had a lack of knowledge of the brand value aspects. Ultimately, the company is currently in debt as per the report of 2023. This case is indeed a real-life example that underscores vulnerability and fails to recognize intangible assets. The largest telecommunication company in Australia was Telstra, which has a historic privilege as well. This is one of the oldest company in the country and it originates from 1901. Besides the natural disasters, malicious attacks, and other physical present reasons behind this company's failure, one of the most vital reasons is its failed valuation of the intangible assets regarding customer contract and software development. The shares of this company are falling drastically. Lastly, the conclusion. This presentation is based on the intangible assets and the potential complexities that are faced by the jurisdiction of Australia. I have not only discussed the barriers and challenges faced by the organizations, but also takes a hand to mitigate the evident challenges in terms of providing impact on the betterment of the business of those firms and the undergoing complexities in recognizing intangible assets. These are the references for this assignment 3. Thank you.